Byram, may we have roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Anderson,
Here?
Mrs. Dawson,
Here.
Mrs. Harrington,
Present.
Mrs. Quintern,
Here.
Mr. Rickett.
Here.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the presence of a quorum.
May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? They moved it on us. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And may we continue standing for a moment of silence for sweet Leah, please. Thank you all. You may be seated. Is there any adjustments to the agenda, Dr. Hornick?
No, ma'am.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve?
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And closed session certification. Ms. Dawson.
All right. I move that pursuant to 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board will convene a closed meeting for the following: discussion of personnel or the performance of a division employee as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. We are in closed session. We all ready? We're going to call this meeting back to order. Ms. Dawson, closed session certification, please.
I move that the board will reconvene in open session, at which time the following motion will be adopted. Whereas the Orange County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Orange County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Byram, can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Dawson,
Aye.
Mrs. Harrington,
Aye.
Mrs. Quintern,
Aye.
Mr. Rickett.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the vote as follows: 5 yes votes and no votes. The resolution is approved by a 5-0 vote.
Deposition of personnel actions. Does this come with your approval, Dr. Hornick?
Yes, ma'am. Recommend approval of the personnel actions as presented in closed session.
Make a motion that we are requesting approval of personnel presented to the school board during the closed session. Recommend approval of the personnel agenda to include resignation, termination, retirement, transfer, and employment, and coaching appointments.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on. Over to you, Dr. Hornick.
Thank you very much, and thank you, members of the board, for allowing some flexibility this evening, so we can welcome our new Orange Elementary School principal here in style. And so, Mr. Loyal Johnson, if you would stand for a moment, I'd like to read a bio. And so, members of the board and the community here this evening, it is a pleasure to introduce to you our incoming principal of Orange Elementary School, Mr. Loyal Johnson, who earned his bachelor's degree in elementary and special education from Slippery Rock University, and he completed his master's degree in ed leadership from James Madison University. Mr. Johnson has spent most of his professional career working with children in multiple capacities. Before coming to Virginia, he worked as a youth mentor for middle school students at the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh, go Steelers, and taught preschool-age children for 4 years. He spent 6 years teaching 5th grade in Culpeper County and coached boys high school soccer. I didn't know that, lawyer. We'll keep that in mind. And travel soccer for the past 10 years. For the past 4 years, he has served diligently as the assistant principal of Orange Elementary School. He enjoys spending time in the community with his lovely wife, Anna, who is here this evening, and their daughter, Gabrielle. He believes it takes a village to raise a child. We are all in this together, and I know that I am one of the many people, including all of the staff and students and parents and community at Orange Elementary School, that are happy to have Lawyer on board. So, Mr. Johnson, if you would come forward here to the backdrop, we would like to get some pictures with you. Like to get some pictures with you as well. Miss McGee, as we ceremoniously pass the torch of Orange Elementary School. Ladies and gentlemen,
Should I bring
yep,
the
we're going to do it
mallet
right now.
and
Yes,
pass it? Yeah.
that's correct. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to introduce Mr. Loyal Johnson, our next principal of Orange Elementary. Judy's our photographer, yes. All right, so let's get a few, all of us, and then we'll let Sherry and Lawyer, and then we'll get Lawyer. All right, congratulations. Sherry, Lawyer. Sherry, Lawyer. Moving away from it.
Oh, now he smiles.
All right, Laura, so we'll start working on the transition, and then we got to start working on getting you an assistant principal now as well. So congratulations, Lawyer. And Madam Chair, members of the board, we will move to the recommendations portion. So we will start this evening. Letter A, and we have Miss Blair is here. Yes. And this is a resolution that we seek annually from the board for National School Breakfast Week. So I'll turn it over to you, Miss Blair, so you can catch us up on this year's theme.
Ms. Blair, if you could hold just for 1 second.
Certainly.
I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Johnson and thank you. How many years?
32,
32 years.
all here.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, the definition of a good leader is what happens when you leave. And so this is an exciting day where we're able to come from within. And then kudos to, where's Dr. Wolfrey? Thank you as well. Thank you.
Back there.
Thanks for your patience, ma'am.
Oh, certainly. Absolutely. Well, good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Hornick, members of the board. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to shine a light on the importance of school breakfast. Each day in Orange County, we serve an average of 2,500, sorry, I said 1,000, that would be impossible. 2,500.
And you'd be able to hire all kinds of people.
We are really feeding.
You're rolling in the money, 25,000.
No, 2,500 school breakfast meals. So that's an average across the county, 2,500 a day for our children. So I invite you to join us March 4th through 8th as we feature some favorite breakfast items for our students in all of the schools of Orange County to celebrate National School Breakfast Week. It's a celebration we have every year just to bring awareness to school breakfast and the importance of it.
And our theme is this Surfs Up.
Surfs
Is that
Up.
right? Surfs Up.
Surfs Up. They have a theme every year. So, any questions? Do you need me to read the? You don't need me to read it, do you?
And again, we can certainly do action on this Monday, but if this is one, if there isn't a problem with, we can.
Madam Chair, I
Put
would
it in the
move
books.
that we approve this.
May I say something real quickly? I just wanted to, I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you for the hard work and dedication that you perform on a daily basis to make sure that all of our kids have the ability to go to school well-fed with a nutritious meal so that they can focus on learning. And I just want to thank you for that, and your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Appreciate it.
So with that, Madam Chair, I would move to approve this resolution as presented.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you, Ms. Blair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll work on that 25,000.
Yeah, keep going.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Lohr. Hide behind Ms. McGee. Ms. Lohr will come forward to provide some information here. And again, this is an action that we are seeking next week. And Ms. Lohr is here for a continuation grant for Head Start and Early Head Start, correct?
Correct. Yes. Hi, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Hornick. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight our 2025 budget for Head Start and Early Head Start. If you, Ms. Byram, could move it forward one. We have a total federal budget this year of a little over $1.7 million. That is about $140,000 more than last year, which is a great thing for our teachers. you'll be able to see that we have 146 students. Now, this is not including our VPI budget. That's a whole separate thing, but I oversee both of those. But I just want to make sure you know we're talking about Head Start and Early Head Start only. And here we see the Head Start amount, a little over $1 million. Early Head Start, $686,000. The two training funds that you see have not changed in the 5 years that I've been here. That's the exact same amount every year. And the next slide, please. There's more of a breakdown of the budget that Mr. Honecker so graciously helped me come up with today. So I don't know. I think, Ms. Bram, I don't know if you sent this out already, but they see it here, the original tonight. You see personnel and fringe is where most of our monies go, and a portion of our monies do go to classroom teachers. And the contractual amounts near the bottom are for mental health and behavioral health outside agencies that we contract with. And you'll see the totals at the bottom. Any questions?
Can you tell me what you do with your training funds?
Sure. This past year, we have a research-based curriculum called Conscious Discipline. We used a lot of our funds. We've been doing this program for 4 years, but we wanted more teacher training, so we spent a large portion of that to fly somebody here from Texas and train our staff at the beginning of the year for 3 days. Okay. And it was very well received. But we have other trainings during the year that teachers may go to. There's a training or a workshop coming up in March in Richmond that a lot of our teachers like to go to. And it's not really a lot of money considering, gas, meals, hotel for,
Right.
6 or 8 people. That goes pretty quickly.
And the non-federal funds, are those
So-
division funds?
Those are division funds. You are required as a grantee, a person that holds the Head Start money, to give a match. And it's 20% plus in kind.
Okay, that was my next question. Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. And at this time, I'm going to bring up Mr. Hill, Technology Director, who has a recommendation for some surplus.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for our consideration of these items. Again, these are items that you can see the age on the iPads there. Those are quite old. They have been replaced since. We still may be able to get some return on that investment, and we always do try to do that. The broken items we send in for recycling through e-waste. Happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chair, I would like to go ahead and approve these items as surplus property, if you're so willing tonight.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appreciate that. Also this evening, we have for action, but you all have seen this before, and this is to complete our outdoor classroom and learning space at the high school with the corresponding restroom facilities. Mr. Arnold, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hornick. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Since this has been presented previously, I won't go over the details again, but to summarize, this project is 100% grant funded from ESSER funding and will get us a restroom facility similar to those that are already in place at Porterfield Park. And that will serve not only the outdoor classroom facility and greenhouse, but also softball and JROTC and band and color guard practice. So it'll be a very versatile addition to the back of the campus. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Can you remind me who the grant was provided by?
It's an ESSER grant,
Thank you.
federal. Yes, ma'am.
Since this was presented before, would anybody like to make a motion and go ahead and proceed with this one? Or do we want to hold off till the next meeting?
Motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve this item as presented.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. And Doug, if you would stay there, please. I'd like to talk about the renewal for the chiller number 2 at Locust Grove Middle School. And this is also a project we would like to take out of some remaining ESSER dollars for a number of reasons. One, it's to the point when the building was open that this work needs to be completed. And two, this is a pretty significant capital project that we would seek to take out of ESSER and therefore doesn't have to hit the capital budget. So Doug, I will let you speak from there, and if all this goes well, what that potentially frees up for us in capital.
Yes, indeed. Thank you again, Dr. Hornick. To do these renewals on compressors, which are recommended for about every 10 to 12 years, with our normal capital budget, the most we would be able to do is to either overhaul one chiller drive or one chiller per year. And what this does is this enables us to renew both parts of the chiller, the drive and the chiller itself, in one shot. It saves us about $12,000, and it makes that entire chiller unit reliable and efficient for the next 10 years or so. And as a matter of fact, they can be overhauled again after that 10 years. So that would mean we would get 33 to 35 years out of one chiller. And the advantage here of getting both phases of this chiller done in one shot, aside from the savings, is that we would now be able to complete the overhaul of the other chiller at Locust Grove Middle School from our capital budget next year, because we've already done an overhaul on the drive when it had some issues in 2020. So once we overhaul that chiller, we'll have both chillers that'll be good to go for the foreseeable future. And of course, it's a very good use of ESSER funds, and provide reliability and energy efficiency of an existing chiller and avoid having to buy a new one. I don't have a direct comparison on the chillers for this building, but I will remind you all that we just bought, again from ESSER funds, new chillers for Locust Grove Elementary and Prospect Heights, and 2 chillers at these smaller schools most recently cost us $455,000. So one chiller for the bigger school is probably going to be in the range of about $350 to $400. So we're saving a good bit of money and extending the life of these chillers. So we feel like this is a very good use of ESSER funds and enables us to save that amount of money off of that scope and use it for other chillers and other HVAC projects. Any questions or comments from the board?
Be able to have the work done by September?
Yes.
Yep.
Did these go out to bid for this, or?
No, this is a Train. Again, it's a sole source. I'm working on their product. They're actually the only company that offers this type of overhaul program.
Understood. And when were the original chillers purchased, do you know?
They were installed in
With the building.
2010 when the building was built. They've been running full time since September of 2011, August 2011, when the school opened. So a little bit toward the end of the recommended time, which is another reason to do it now.
So are the terms and conditions of the Omnia contract 3341, that's the original contract with Train? Is that what that refers to?
Yes, Omnia, that is a cooperative purchasing agreement,
Okay.
and that's what we've used to purchase the other chillers as well.
Thank you very much for your continued insurance that we are using our funds wisely and being able to shift and use those one-time funds to offset the ability to use our capital funds is good fiscal management. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Much obliged.
stretching the life of that chiller.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We'll move this evening now to two reports. One, we'll start A, and we are happy to begin providing some updates in the area of our strategic plan. And this evening, we are bringing forward to you an update and an overview of some of the work we've been doing under the Safe Learning Environment platform. And so this work encompasses multiple areas. Obviously, the school law enforcement partnership is one, and I'll talk about that, don't let me forget, towards the end. A second includes really your threat assessment and your mental health and those type of services, which is why Susan is standing before you. And of course, another component of safety and security is the physical plant, cameras, technology, et cetera, which is why Marshall is here this evening, and I will add in as well. But we would like to catch you up on some of the work that we have been doing within this component of the strategic plan. So Susan, I'll turn it over to you to begin.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Hornick. Under Safe Learning Environment, when you go to the strategic plan, the first strategy was about developing behavioral expectations. And so wanted to give an update on how we've moved through those strategies up to this point. The first was developing the Student Code of Conduct, and that was a document that actually came before you before school started. So it was at the end of July. Where we had all of our information together. So it was all of our policies, procedures, and the Virginia Department of Education's guidance as far as Student Code of Conduct. That has been posted on our website since school began. Parents were notified at the beginning of the year through a notification acknowledgement system, and that's through PowerSchool. We had the Student Code of Conduct, but also there's a notification document that includes just some routine annual notifications that we're required to notify parents of. And so we sent that through our system so that parents could then acknowledge that they had seen and read those documents. Each of the principals did do training within their buildings and reviewing the Student Code of Conduct with their staff. And we do review discipline data at our administrative staff meetings and during our school improvement plan reviews. Each school does a school improvement plan, and so we have reviews throughout the year, and we go through discipline data at that as well. Any questions on the Student Code of Conduct? Okay. So strategy.
I do.
Okay.
How successful were you in getting parent responses?
It's not as successful as we would like it to be. We don't have a full record of every parent, and that's something that I'm working with Mr. Straub on to make sure that there's a better way to keep track of parents, their actual acknowledgement.
Thank you. And has there been any noticeable change in the discipline data?
As far as the implementation of a Student Code of Conduct, I would say that's more just our guidance of how we work through issues. And so the issues that our students have are, I think, what we're seeing as a nation, and we're working through those. I will say the Department of Education, the rubric that they give us as far as like the levels and intensity that you can consider as far as what are the consequences of, certain discipline infractions. I personally believe that helps in being able to really look at each student, looking at, okay, this was the infraction, but let's talk about the level and the intensity. And, things are different for a first grader versus a freshman in high school. And really being able to have something to point parents to when we talk about here's how we came to, our recommendation as far as discipline.
Thank you, Susan.
Any other questions? No. Okay. So strategy 2 was about clear communication regarding emotional and physical well-being. So we do review our safety training schedules with our administration at the beginning of the year, and looking at what are the best ways that we have as far as identifying and evaluating these safety training to parents. So, for example, when we have code red drills, one of the things that we do prior to and after, depending on what time of the year it is, we alert parents that we are going to have a drill. And when the drill is completed that morning, we also let parents know that there was a drill, so that parents will hear from their children throughout the day, or may hear something in the community, and we want to make sure that we clearly let them know what is happening and what is going on. I'm excited to say that we have received a grant from the Department of Behavioral Health to collaborate with Encompass. And Encompass is actually our community services board. So it used to be the Rappahannock-Rapidan Community Services Board, but they changed their name as far as beginning January 1, I believe, to Encompass. So just so you knew which organization it was. But our goal is to hire a crisis counselor for Orange County Public Schools. And so that's what the grant will allow us to do, hopefully. Unfortunately, the grant has a very short timeline, but we're moving through it, and Encompass is really working with us to fill that position. But that person can then move throughout the county at whatever school they need to be at to help with risk assessments for students. But then following that risk assessment, really working with a student's family. How can we provide supports? How can we connect them to supports in our community and follow through so that there's success for that student? And we're also, one of the things, as one of the strategies in our group was about the club schedule at the high school. And that's kind of an evolving piece. It started one way, and I think it's morphing throughout the year, especially as we change things with tutoring and different schedules at the high school. But that is certainly something at the forefront that we're always looking at. And then lastly,
Ms. Ayler?
Yes.
On the partnership with Encompass and the crisis counselor, is that intended to be a one-time thing? Will it have ongoing and sustainable funding? Do you know?
That we don't know at this point. I will say the grant was announced at the end of November with a due date of December 5th. So we turned it around very quickly. They let us know January 4th that we were awarded our grant. We've been attending all their trainings. We've been working with Encompass. Unfortunately, the funding for this particular grant runs out June 30. That's why we're kind of hurrying it along, hopefully to have someone in place for at least a couple months. They couldn't guarantee us funding beyond June 30, but they're hoping that there will be additional grants that we can apply for so that you can continue some of the services or personnel or whatever each county had chosen to put in place, that hopefully we can continue that.
And is that state or federal funding?
State.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind just keeping us up to date on the relationship with Encompass. So Rappahannock, its previous name, how many counties do they serve?
I believe it's 5.
So 5, and they're based in Culpeper, if I understand correctly?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. They do have an office here locally, so there are some individuals who are here in the Orange office at different times, but for
It's not
most,
staffed full-time, though? Right,
and for most services, students and their families have to travel to Culpeper.
right. Yeah, if you could just keep us up to speed on how that relationship works, I certainly would appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions on that part? Okay, so the next thing is the character education. And I've been before you a couple different times where to update everyone about where our character education curriculum was, that we had a committee that reviewed everything from February of last year through September. Then we brought a curriculum to the school board and for approval to at least put it on our website. And so we did that, got parent feedback, and it was adopted in November. Just recently, we've met with principals. It took a little bit of maneuvering to get everyone together, but we wanted to have principals and our entire committee meet together to talk about the rollout of their curriculum. And thank you, Ms. Anderson, for being at that meeting. And so what we decided was, we're already into second semester. We're at the end of February. So we're going to put the materials up on our internal server so that teachers can get to them very easily where their other curriculum materials are, so that our school counselors and principals from now till the end of the year can access the approved resources for things that they need within their building. However, at the beginning of next school year, the 24-25, we will do a full rollout and have a letter that goes out to parents that gives all the information, how it's going to, take place in each of the buildings. And we're finishing up going through, there were some links. Virginia Department of Education changed their website, and they change links periodically, which then changes all the links in your document. So we're finishing updating all of our links to make sure that they work and putting it back on the website so parents can find it and look at it at any time that they choose. Any questions about where we're at with character education?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, and I think I'll turn it over to Marshall.
Thank you, Susan. Moving on, just to recap, Susan and I were on the same committee with strategic planning, and want to talk to you about Blue Ribbon Panel tonight. This is something that we devised as a team to reach out to central office leadership as part of the team, Dr. Hornick, myself, Susan, as well as Lieutenant McMaster out in the hallway. Former Sheriff Smith was now Sheriff Smith, former Captain Smith was on it. Now we have Captain Seal. And then we also have some community experts that have been in risk management roles in other county school divisions, as well as former military and law enforcement. We hold the meetings routinely here at TEAC, and some of the things that we talk about, current events in the U.S. schools, what's happening with some cross telecommunication. We discuss information that comes down from DCJS, some new technologies and goals, things that are out there. And then also we're getting ready to do our school safety audit, as well as our upcoming lockdown drills. Moving on, next slide. Some of our goals, of course, I just talked about beginning the safety audits at all divisions. We're not required this year to do them. It's an every 3 year, but just to get a fresh look at our schools under the strategic plan and take a look at our buildings and our facilities to make sure they're safe for our kids. Once we get done with that survey, we're going to bring all the content back to the panel, and we'll sit and find those areas that need improvement and rack and stack them and prioritize them for funding plan of attack.
This would be an area also that, depending on how the budget looks towards the end of the year, if there are some unspent funds, school security, one-time projects in particular, are always a good look, whether that's cameras, vestibules, anything that's a one-time expenditure. Would be a good look. So that's why we want to have some of these areas prioritized before the end of the year so we could get those projects accomplished.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Warnick.
Thank you for working hard to keep those kids safe.
Yes, ma'am. Moving on to another topic, an additional effort that I want to bring before you tonight is to help enhance the school safety and security is DCJS has a school resource officer incentive grant funding for additional SSOs. And Susan is working with me on that. And under this grant, our goal is to add one SSO per middle school. And by adding an SSO to each middle school is going to help the administration with some student discipline, some of the things that are going on in the middle schools, and also with investigations towards behavior and other issues that Renee and Nick face on a day-to-day basis. Currently, the applications due this week. and we're in process of taking care of it. Next topic, bring on security vestibules. As you know from many previous board meetings, Doug worked really hard this past summer and got some more done. But that gives you a list of the schools that have completed vestibules, the safe, secure entrance, the remaining buildings, with some targeted completion date for this summer for the two remaining, as well as Teak.
One issue that we have this year, we're fortunate that we have 7 complete. We had submitted for security grant funding for the high school and Locust Grove Elementary School. We did not receive that funding this year, and so that was a disappointment. So that made us rethink and try to figure out a way to re-strategize, and we are hoping that we're going to be able to complete the elementary school and the high school by this summer. And it has led us to really, we have to rethink Teak at this point. So our targeted completion has really been moved to a to be determined based on funding. But our goal is to complete the elementary school and the high school so that all 9 of our buildings have secure vestibules and check-in locations for the beginning of the 24-25 school year.
And then the last thing tonight I want to bring before you is actually our superintendent's idea. He brought this, we talked about it back before the beginning of the school year through P3 Communications and working with the Sheriff's Office, but it came with a price. Dr. Hornick found it upon himself to find another county in Virginia that is doing one that's free of charge on the website and tailored it and tweaked it to work here in Orange County. So this tip is an anonymous tip line for anyone to post something that might be of interest for us to take a look at and investigate for any harm or any wrongful doing or law-breaking effort. Dr. Hornick, please add in.
Yeah, so this is a format. Of course, we're going to allow folks to report issues or concerns they have. It will allow for anonymous reporting. There will be an option should you want to give your name. You can. You will not have to. We will utilize this through a Google form that can be accessed from the website. We will make it very clear to our administrators as well as our community that this is not a 24/7 monitored 911 dispatch center, right? And so those concerns still need to go where they need to go. But we will monitor this tip line during our business hours, so to speak, if you will. And our administrators will investigate and delve into the concerns that come forward. And we really feel this is another way to demonstrate not only our commitment to safety and security, but also empowering our folks in the community with yet another with another really good option for bringing concerns and issues forward in a way that they might be more comfortable doing than having to simply report them in person. And so this is something I'm looking to roll out here this spring. We will call it OC Safe, and so stay tuned. That is definitely coming. So we will have that option before we get to the end of this school year. So it is up and running. I think that pretty much covers it, doesn't Susan, Marshall?
That's correct.
Marshall, one quick.
Yes, John.
2 slides back, please. One more. Thank you. All right. So the high school and Locust Grove Elementary targeted completion this summer.
That's correct.
Feel like we're going to get it completed?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes. So TIAC.
I want to make sure my partner back there.
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me look back. Gary? There we go.
We're doing
this something.
A little fire back here across.
So basically, Mr. Rickett, the reason we want to do it this summer, and the reason that Gary will give you a little bit of is when we didn't get the security grant funding, this is something that we either have to work into capital or potentially try to take out of our existing operating funds. So we are hoping to manage money well, so that we can address it out of the operating fund. Doug is steadily working on getting contractors and getting that squared away. It would probably make the most sense to use contractors who have done this work, particularly when you consider the completion of Prospect Heights Middle School this past summer is the exact same vestibule flipped at Locust Grove Elementary School, right? So we have a really good idea of the cost of that particular project because we've already done it at one of our buildings. And so, this is something we need to get done. How do we explain to a community member, who are the haves and the have-nots? Why do 7 buildings have them and 2 don't? And so this is a very high priority for us to get these complete, and especially if we're looking to address out of operating funds, that moves up our timeline considerably. So, but this would be projects we want to get done before we start school next year.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Hornick. So he went right where I was going. So I put the ownership on this board. So I'll be interested to hear as we go forward with the budget not getting that funding. So TEAC we have Head Start and Boys and Girls. So we have a lot of young people up here. So I'm sure there's a plan for what you would like to do. I don't want to know what you want to do.
Doug can speak to that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So
I want to make sure that we are talking about the funding for TEAC at the appropriate time and not wait for that. So that is something that falls on this board. So as you're working with your partners, Gary in the corner, just continue to keep us up to speed. That's all I'm really asking. Let's make sure we get all of our all of our locations safe for young people.
So we knew that TEAC was always going to fall on us. TEAC, for the security grant funding, this building is not eligible for the security grant funding. So we were hoping to get the security grant funding to cover a considerable portion of the elementary school and the high school. Therefore, we were left addressing TEAC, which we knew we were going to have to address. We've also had some discussions with the Boys and Girls Club as far as them, and they have some significant willingness to essentially cover the third entrance at the Boys and Girls Club entrance, right? So you have 3 main entrances here. You have the front desk where Ms. Brown works. You have the Head Start entrance, and you have the entrance back by the gym for Boys and Girls Club. And so the club has extended an invitation to and extended a willingness to pay essentially for that third entrance. That's where TEAC at this point had to get pushed because the priority has to be we got to start with the high school and the elementary school. When we didn't get the grant funding for that put us in a little bit of a quagmire because that is what we wanted to use to address TEAC. Right, we knew we were going to have to do that on our own without the benefit of grant funding. Now it put all 3 of these buildings with the onus on us. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, and basically what this has done by not getting the grant, it has pushed the TEAC work back 1 year. I still feel like we can get TEAC done in the coming fiscal year, even with the emphasis on the 2 schools for this summer. And with the help from the Boys and Girls Club is essentially funding the third entrance. The budget for the other 2 is probably going to be less than the 2 schools. Because number 1, they're in the same building, and number 2, they're fairly simple entrances without too much strange angles and stuff like we had at Prospect. So I think we'll be able to get those done by the following summer.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Susan, Marshall, thank you all very much. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you all. And at this point, we'll move to letter B. And I'd like to thank Ms. Anderson for, I guess it was multiple meetings last week, and Ms. Harrington as well for coming down. Where we stand with the budget, The calendar that was originally approved had us presenting the budget this evening. However, we feel we are much closer than we were previously to actually getting a calc tool for the House and Senate budgets. What that means is that gives us a much clearer picture, an idea of a better idea of what the revenues will be. What we would like to propose to the board, and of course this will all depend on if and when a calc tool comes forward, but we would like to propose to the board a special called meeting on Friday at a time that works for you all, where we would bring forward our proposed budget. The only way we wouldn't have that meeting on Friday would be if the calc tools come out Thursday at noon or 4 o'clock or whatever it was, which is then basically going to press us, and regardless of what happens, we're going to have to present then next Monday, the 4th, at our regularly scheduled meeting. And if Mrs. Anderson, if I'm correct from our discussion on Thursday and Friday, we would like to also get a second special called meeting on the books either Monday or Tuesday, the 11th or 12th. At which point the board would come back and hopefully we could address and approve the budget so that we can get it to the supervisors. And so that's where we stand as far as the finance and budget. I know that Ms. Harrington and Ms. Anderson, we met for quite a while on Friday. If there's anything I'm missing from this update, and I know we can either address the meetings now or when we get to calendar. I think I know we have calendar review this evening. We could address in either way, but I will turn it over to you all if there's anything that I missed.
Yeah, I think ultimately what we were hoping for was that we were able to present the budget to the community on Friday, allowing for public comment on the following Monday at our regular board meeting, and then taking that feedback and allowing us to approve the board or the budget at the 11th or 12th meeting. So that would give us the steps that we would typically follow on a normal basis if we would have all the information up front. But, unfortunately, we're still up in the air of whether we're going to have all the information by Friday. So I don't know if you had anything else, Sandy.
No, I think that's about it for now.
I think I would prefer, because Friday is very short turnaround, and there's also people with work schedules that I don't know necessarily the community would be able to come out on Friday. So I would propose that we continue with our meeting on Monday and present it at that meeting, and then have possibly a specially called meeting after that.
For when would we access the public comment, though, is the question.
We could move the public comment to a special meeting following, like on the 11th or the 12th.
Would we need to then have another meeting after that to take in the information that we get from public comment? Would be my only question. Sorry, hopefully I'm speaking into the mic. Can you hear me? That would be my only concern, is that taking that information back from public comment, and if we need to adjust anything on our budget itself, it doesn't give us enough time to either approve or disapprove. That's
I don't
my
know that I'd be able to be available on Friday.
Okay.
Is our meeting already scheduled on the 25th too late? to push it?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was the problem when the Board of Supervisors is hoping to have all of our information back.
Which is when?
The end of March.
Their answer is yesterday.
So, I mean, I'm fine with keeping the presentation on the 4th. I know we're kind of in a bind. There's really no great solution at this point.
Well, so maybe there is a caveat. I mean, if you think about last year, there was a budget approved. It was either, I believe it was late February. Now it was early March. And then from there, it went to the supervisors. I mean, so essentially when you all address and approve our proposed budget, that's still far from being done, because we still have to go through the process of working with the counterparts on the supervisor's finance committee as well. And so there will likely, like for instance, last year, the board actually approved 2 budgets. There was the one that was approved in early March, and then there was a number of things that happened in between there, and then we had to actually call a special called meeting and present an amended budget to you all based on the changes we proposed to make after our funding, our revenue stream changed again. And then the revised budget of the original budget was then approved May the 1st. And so there will still be quite a bit of time where changes are 100%. I don't foresee us not having changes even from what you all would address potentially on the 11th or 12th, because that is strictly based on what we are anticipating getting from the General Assembly without hearing much as far as in the way of what our local funding source and our revenue stream is going to be. And so there's no guarantee that the ask is even going to be able to be met. And so if it's not, that means we're going to have to do quite a bit more work to get the budget to fit within the numbers that of the revenue that we're going to be offered from the locality. So I almost look at the initial approval it is a signal of agreement as far as the overarching principles and the precepts behind the budget, knowing that likely isn't even what's going to be true come April or May. So it shows that we're in alignment as far as what our priorities and those type of things, but I think we all know in the back of our minds that's likely far from being the final document that we will ultimately work from and print contracts from and everything else. So we do still have quite a bit of work to do, and so that is where also feedback that we get in any form can also be addressed as we move through. So just as a thought.
Thank you.
That being said, I'm a little bit more flexible next week, but I would not be able to make Friday work.
I mean, with that explanation, I think makes perfect sense. That it's a proposed budget.
Correct. Right. And then it moves from being the superintendent's proposed budget to the school board approved budget, which is essentially the school board's proposed budget to the Board of Supervisors. Right. So there's still quite a bit of work to do even after that initial phase.
Okay. So I guess we can, unless you have something else, Sandy.
The only thing that I would just state is that I know that we have community members, stakeholders, parents. I know that Mr. McFadden has requested information, and I just want to make sure that we continue to the best of our ability to provide that information. And I wanted to also very briefly just say there, Darlene has presented an idea that we will be working out going forward after this process is done, so that next year we do begin maybe earlier in including our community members and getting the ideas and feedback from them also.
Well, we can discuss dates then at the board calendars then. So
Sounds great. Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
So thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So I apologize there. So I will turn it back over to you, Mrs. Anderson.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harrington, the Blue Ridge Governor's School update.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to advise the board and audience that I was able to attend the Blue Ridge, Virginia Governor's School Board meeting. And the next day after that meeting, which was primarily just an organizational process, but the next day after, the Governor's School was presenting a wellness conference that I was fortunate enough to be able to go back and watch and see some really great information being presented and shared with our students. They talked about topics such as work-life balance, stress management, causes and effects of sleep deprivation, and digital citizenship, which I know is really important as we go forward with our conversations on AI. So I wanted to make sure and recognize the two students that started this conference off, both Angie Betancourt and Tina Jackson, because they provided introductions, icebreakers, and led the group through the importance of establishing daily routines. And it was really nice to go to a student-led event. So I just wanted to share that.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, moving on to B, Ms. Harrington and Mrs. Quintern.
Yes, so we don't have too many updates. However, as of February 8th, we had some movement. We ended up sending out that approved email over to Spanberger and Warren's offices. We also emailed Scott Freitas and Reeves and got a meeting scheduled for, so our first meeting with our legislators are going to be on March 28th. 11:30. It's going to be virtual, so it's going to be kind of like an introductory meeting, get a feel for what's going on. So if you have any ideas that want expressed, we're open to those, but it's going to be a little bit more informal than how we plan to be moving forward. We also extended an invitation to the Board of Supervisors to participate. We have not heard back yet, but hopeful that they will join us. Additionally, Senator Warren actually declined to participate in our committee, which is unfortunate, and we did not receive any response from Tim Kaine's office either, but I do believe Spanberger's office is going to be contributing, as well as our local senators and delegates. So we're excited about that. That sums it up.
Thank you, Chelsea.
No, thank you. All right. All right, we're moving on to board member comments. Is there any additional comments or?
Very briefly, I just wanted to update. I'm in the right place. Update the board and let everyone know that I am starting a communication process with the District 5 Lake of the Wood members, parents, etc. I do provide a monthly update after our first of the month meeting to the Board of the Lake, and also I'm putting in an article in the monthly Lake Currents. So I will forward that to you guys so that you all also have an opportunity to see that information. And if you have anything that you want me to share at any time, please let me know. Starting in April, I am working with Low Management to hopefully identify a location and a process for reaching out to parents and stakeholders within the Lake of the Woods area to come in and give me ideas and provide input as to what their priorities are and or their concerns are, so we can bring that forward.
One quick one.
Sure.
I wanted to thank Dr. Hornick and Dr. Honecker for myself and Ms. Anderson attended a visit today at Louisa CTE Center. It was excellent. Would like to thank Doug Straley, the superintendent of schools, who was extremely thorough in walking us through a lot of the progress that they had, and just letting our board know they are in the process of doing another expansion. They're going to put up another building in the front of their high school, keeping everything all together. And they have a lot of things moving forward there. But appreciated everybody putting that, Renee putting that together. It was I learned a lot. I really did. So thanks very much, and thanks to our counterparts over in Louisa.
That's great. Thank you. Anything? No? We're good? All right.
I have one more thing I almost forgot. I just wanted to give a shout out to the FAA students. They did their third annual Ride a Tractor to School, and I just got lucky and happened to run into someone that told me about that the night before and hitched a ride. So it was really exciting to both ride a tractor and to see the kids.
Awesome. All right, moving on to the agenda. Ms. Byram.
Okay, so I will make some updates based on the actions that we took tonight. Let me pull it up here quickly. And we do have one recognition, and we'll have public comment that evening. And we will remove the breakfast resolution.
C and D is
Oh, and the technology surplus and the modular restroom. And after our calendar discussion, we may or may not be adding a budget presentation for that evening. So that's all for that.
All right, and then we have the calendar.
So I'll start with March, and just what's currently on the calendar is the regular meeting on the 4th, Student Holiday and Teacher Professional Development Day on the 5th. That's because of the primaries that are held in our schools. And a Student Holiday Teacher Work Day on the 15th. The work session at the end of March on the 25th. And then there are several meetings where board members attend as our representatives. We've got PREP, the new Academy of Technology and Innovation Board will have their first meeting, or will that be the second by that time? And then the Ed Foundation Board meeting on the 28th.
Okay. So, looking at
On
the calendar.
the 18th, we also have a Head Start meeting at 3:15.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything that's missing other than when we're going to plan our budget work session?
Excuse me.
So the proposal right now is to do the Monday the 11th or Tuesday the 12th for the special called meeting for the budget.
The 11th or 12th
Mm-hmm.
for the final one? I'm sorry. So
For the proposed.
okay. But we're not going to go forward on this Friday.
No, Chelsea wouldn't be able
Okay.
to make it, and with Dr. Hornick's explanation, I think we still have possibly public comment on the 4th, and then the presentation on the 4th as well.
Correct.
The original presentation, and
Got
then
it.
the work session or the special called meeting on the 11th or the 12th.
Got it. Thank you.
Do you have times preferred?
I don't personally, other than I'm actually not going to I'll be out of town the 13th, so that's why I was trying to hope Monday or Tuesday would be best for me, but any time is fine.
Tuesday would be preferable.
It's fine with me. Tuesday? The time?
Does it still need to be evening? 7? 6?
It can be earlier in the evening. 6, 7,
5.
5. I could make 5 work.
Wonderful.
Dr. Hornick, can you make?
The
Yes,
12th,
ma'am.
Is that correct?
Chelsea suggested the 12th.
Okay.
Jack suggested at 5 o'clock.
I heard that.
That's my bedtime.
Are we, so we're in agreement, they'd be the 12th at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Does that work for, Yep. Gary, is that good for you? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll move ahead to April, and that one's pretty brief. We've got spring break for students and staff the first full week, so that bumps our first meeting to the 8th, our regular meeting to the 8th. and the work session on the 29th, and then the second Academy of Tech, or third Academy of Technology and Innovation Board meeting on the 24th.
Looks good.
Sounds good.
Thank you. All right. If there's nothing else, we made it out of here before 9, Jack. We're good.
Nice.
We're going to call this, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.